Good evening, everyone, and welcome to What Matters with me, Erica Elita. And I'm really happy to have you here tonight. It's going to be a wonderful show with lots of learning for both of us, for you and for me. And today I have a special guest. We will be discussing the art of a genuine apology. Now, I know a lot of people, most of us think apologizing is saying we're sorry. And a good apology is saying you're sorry and meaning it. But there is a lot more. And as I spoke with my guests, I reflected on situations where I didn't feel that I was truly apologized to, even though I heard those words. So today we're going to learn how to, one, make a proper apology, an authentic, genuine apology, what we need from an apology. There's also the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. A lot of times people think that once someone forgives you, you're all reconciled, and that is not the case, and I've experienced that myself. There is also the topic of generational hurt and how forgiveness matters in families and lineages and going on with your children, and we'll discuss that a bit. And actually, there's a lot of topics we're going to touch on. So as the show progresses, you will see, but our theme today is definitely what a genuine apology is, what you need from one, and how to take it. So when we come back from this commercial break, I'm going to be bringing on registered psychotherapist Andrew L. Blackwood. He's here with me today. I'm really, really thrilled. I'm going to be learning with you guys today. Get your pens out. You can always watch the replay, but I think this is going to be a really good show. And as you see on screen behind me, oops, wrong finger. There we go. I'm getting the hang of this. You see the screen behind me, there is a call-in number. So we will be trying to take your calls in the last segment of the show, and I will let you know when the lines go live. So join me in a few minutes when I bring on Mr. Blackwood, and we're going to talk more about the art of a genuine apology.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Good evening. Oh, let me move my microphone. And we're back, and with me I have my guest, Mr. Andrew L. Blackwood. Thank you for coming, Andrew. I want to applaud for you. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So I only spoke to Andrew briefly, and when I did, I said, honestly, don't tell me anymore. Mine's already blown. We're going to discuss this live, and we're all going to learn together. So Andrew is a registered psychotherapist.
Yes, that's right.
He is a media personality. This is definitely by far not the biggest and first show he's been on, and I'm actually I thought it was very gracious of you to accept. I got to watch.
My pleasure.
No, well, he's been on some big shows, so I feel very, very honored that you accepted the invitation. I thank you so much. And then you also, now, you said that, I asked you if you were an actor. And you said no. So I saw, now I've posted all of Andrew's links to contact him, his Instagram, his Facebook, his website. So you can go on Instagram and see this video that I'm talking about that I saw. But I saw a video, go check it out yourself. And so I'm like, this man is an actor. But you said you're actually...
Yes, I have a history with dance.
Okay, so
Dance, yeah.
I guess he doesn't want to officially call himself a dancer, but the man can move. So go check out his IG. You will see what I mean.
That was just me having fun. Right?
Well, he's very entertaining. So Andrew has written this amazing book. So one, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us about what you do and how it came about you coming to write this book.
Well, I've been a registered psychotherapist. I've been a psychotherapist for 13 years.
Okay.
In social services for 15 years. I've seen a lot of pain, seen a lot of hurt, and people are people. Mm-hmm. You will not find people without hurt.
That's right.
You know, nobody's perfect. So watching people go through this week after week, year after year, I saw similarities in how people did things and recovered from things or didn't recover from things. So even when people attempted to address something, the mistakes that they would make when they attempted to address it, I started to realize, oh, okay, this happens here, this happens here. So I started to collect them, and I made a short, kind of tool that I would give to people. And then I said, why don't I make a pockets guide? And then I met with the editor, and then it turned into a full-fledged book. So that's the short version of how it came to be.
That's the short version. Well, obviously very, very needed. It was something that was needed, and you saw this in your practice dealing with people day to day that, as you said, you'll find hurt in everyone from every race, even in the most positive relationships, positive upbringings, people experience hurt. And apologies are supposed to be the Band-Aid. They're supposed to be the elixir, right, to being hurt. And one of the things, if you're following me, and if you're not, you should.
Please.
If you're following me, you'll see that I had posted a few things, in the days prior to this show, talking about what an apology entails. Like, what does it take to make a proper apology? And one of the things that I mentioned was saying to someone, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Don't even bother. Don't even say it. It's just the biggest dismissal of someone else's feelings and any any responsibility you feel in the way they feel, because you're saying, I'm sorry you feel like that, and you're excluding yourself from that process. You're basically saying, that's not me, it's really a you thing. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning. It's an art, you say?
Yes, definitely.
So what does a genuine apology entail?
So, a lot of people, before they read the book, they have this notion that genuine simply means sincere. And it moves beyond sincerity, because I say it over and over, sincerity isn't enough. Good intentions aren't enough. Love isn't enough. When we're talking about a genuine apology, we're talking about like a genuine article, like a classic, like something that's set apart. Like when you get this thing or when you give this thing, there's no question about it.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So the idea that there's an art to it, it speaks to the discipline, the time it takes, the effort it takes, the practice it takes. Because it's not just about saying, I'm sorry.
Okay, so apologies take time, apparently. Now, again, I'm here, I'm learning with you guys. This is so new to me, because my understanding of an apology is like, and guys comment, I'm here for it, this is why we're here, is someone looking you in the eye and meaning it and saying, you know what, I'm really sorry. And what I know to be a good thing is to say what you're sorry for. That's what I teach my children.
Right, right.
I'm sorry, Mom, for what? Why are you sorry? Because
Right.
it's very important for you to know what you're sorry for. And then if you say, well, I'm sorry for, talking back. I was being very rude. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings.
Right.
Okay, so now you've acknowledged what you've done.
Yeah.
You've acknowledged how it's made me feel.
Yes.
You're looking me in the eye.
Yes.
So is that not like a great apology?
You see, now you've highlighted at least two of the important steps in the art of a genuine apology.
There's steps, people. Get
Oh,
your
yes.
pens.
There are 4 steps. But I hesitate to give out the steps.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, they want to take the shortcut.
Okay.
Right? And for many reasons. I won't blame anybody. I can relate to that. But there are a lot of things that go into that. Before you consider the 4 steps, it's important to understand that piece about time.
Okay.
So the apology that you were just sharing with me, based on what you are teaching your children, apologizing for what? It's not the drive-by apology where it's like, I'm sorry, and then you're gone. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Let's slow this down. Let's take the time, because your apology isn't really about you. Your apology is about me. It's for me.
Right.
If I'm worth the time, you'll take the time. If you don't take the time, what kind of message is that sending to me?
Okay. Clear as day. Now I totally get the time factor. That, and an apology is not about the person apologizing. It's who you're apologizing to.
Right. And, I take the time sometimes to wordsmith things.
Okay.
Some people think it's just about semantics, but I like to say what I mean so I can mean what I say. So it is about both people, but the apology is for the person who is hurt.
Okay.
Right? Because as you give this apology, you're going to change as a person. You're going to grow as a person. Your life changes when you give that apology, just as much as the person who you're giving the apology to.
Okay.
So I backtrack to the whole time thing.
Okay.
Before you even get to the apology, the amount of time that you take to consider the apology, consider the other person, consider what you did, consider how it impacted the other person, that takes time, right? To decide that you're ready to apologize with no strings attached.
Interesting.
Right? It invites somebody to examine themselves. How did I get to this place? How did I do what I did in the first place? Because if I'm not aware of that, what do you think is going to happen?
A reoccurrence of the infraction.
Exactly. And what do you think that does to the other person?
It reduces their faith in you. I would think that, especially if it's in a close, intimate relationship, it makes you feel of less value. You start to wonder about your own value.
Yeah.
And you no longer, the trust is gone.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
I'm a good student, guys.
Yes, you are. But that's the thing. When we start to talk about these topics and these issues, a lot of it seems to just come to the top for us because it makes sense. But again, we don't take the time to really think about it. We feel uncomfortable. We want to rush through it. We want to race through it. And inevitably that creates more hurt and more distance, more pain.
Right.
And then more apologies are requested, and, you know.
Well, that's the thing that I wanted to ask you. And guys, that's why at the beginning when I started listing our possible topics for today, I was hesitant because I think that this is such a big conversation. We may not get to everything, but when we're back from the break, I always, from my experience, most apologies are asked for. Like, you're not going to tell me sorry. So I found it very interesting that Andrew said, you know, that you would do something wrong and then consider the person and contemplate and say, wait, I think I need to apologize to this person, or the way they're behaving towards me, obviously I've done something that's upset them. Let me do a bit of reflection. So when we come back from the break, you've given us some of the steps of the genuine apology, and I think we also have to delve into what someone needs from an apology to really heal and go forward. And remember, going forward doesn't always mean with that person. So we'll be back from the break in just a moment.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi everyone, we're back today with author and registered psychotherapist Mr. Andrew Blackwood, and this is his book, which you can win today, and I will let you know what you can do to win it, The Art of the Genuine Apology. So in the first segment, we spoke about what a real apology looks like and a bit of what it takes. And one of the things that Andrew mentioned was time, which is something I'd never considered, because in my experience in giving and getting, it's often off the cuff. Very, you look mad, I'm sorry. And like he said, the drive-by apology. So a huge part in the art of the genuine apology will be reflection. I think that is a huge part on, I don't think the hurt person has probably already started doing a lot of reflecting.
Yes.
It would be the hurter that would need to do some reflection. So definitely the time factor, taking the time to assess what you've done and what needs to be done. So another thing that you speak about is what we need from an apology. And I will answer my layman way, and I'm sure that a lot of you have felt the same way. And for me, I always felt that what I needed from an apology was for the person to say it. But then words and actions don't always align.
Right. They don't always line up.
And then that feeling of the authenticity, being looked in the eye, the person looking remorseful, not necessarily repetition, because that's not a big thing for me, but I thought that's what I would need from an apology. But in my life, over the years, things have happened where I got that, and it still didn't work for me. And so what is it that we need from an apology in general, because I'm sure it varies from person to person, that allows us to, hold on, let me back up. Is the point of an apology to be forgiven?
Taking a different route. Is the point of an apology to be forgiven?
Yes.
I think it's when the apology is genuine. That is a desire.
Okay.
Because there is a sense of remorse, which is very different than regret. Two very different things.
Regret and remorse. are very different.
Yes, very different. So this is it's a pretty thick book. Okay, and
Yeah,
it is that. Don't worry, the print is a little large to help people out, but it's a big book because it covers a lot of territory.
Okay.
It covers communication. It covers emotional injury, and we're gonna come back to that. But the difference between regret and remorse. Some people apologize and they regret that they got caught.
Right. Yes, definitely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In that instance, it's still about me and not about you. Remorse is when, I realize I've caused you pain. This is
Okay.
about you. There's a sense of sorrow attached to the regret. I don't regret that I did what I did, because now look the way things are, man. Like, I never should have done it. It was a mistake. I talk about the difference between a mistake, accident, and a bad decision in the book. But the point here is, when it's really about you, I can do that first step, take the responsibility and say, you know what, I've hurt you. And the second step is to exercise that empathy. And this is how I see it's impacted you, or this is how I imagine it has impacted you.
Okay.
And that taps into that sense of remorse. There's an awareness. So you were talking about, what does a person need? Well, you're right. It varies from one person to the next.
Right.
It varies from one situation to the next. But in order to understand what somebody needs, we benefit from having an appreciation of emotional injury.
Okay.
Emotional injury, and that's different for different people. So in order for me to know what I need in an apology, I have to understand the emotional injury. Why is this bothering? Why does it hurt me the way that it does? And that ties into grief and loss, believe it or not. Because when we're hurt, sometimes something has been taken from us.
Right.
And sometimes we don't even know what that is.
What it is, yeah.
Right? So if we don't know what it is, sometimes that contributes to us being unable to move forward and to move on and to accept an apology that might be sincere, but it might not hit the spot.
Right. Okay. I'm following. I'm definitely following. That, because sometimes things will happen that seem relatively small, but they impact you greatly.
Right.
And it's because of a hurt, or kind of almost a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a predisposition to that. And so when someone hits your funny bone, that really sensitive, tender area of your person,
Right.
you may almost seem to react disproportionately.
Right.
But so that's where the assessment of yourself comes in, the person receiving the apology,
Yeah.
really, in what is it that you need, and are you carrying things over from other places? Are you looking for this person to apologize for all the hurt that came before, that maybe it's more like that they triggered it, not caused it, right?
Precisely.
I'm doing
right? Yes, no, you're right on. So emotional injury, again, it could be from your mother, your father, previous partner, whatever the case, teacher, I don't know.
Being teased as a child,
Right.
the insecurities.
And that speaks to the individual's experience, right? So we often judge each other's and try to measure each other's pain. Like, I should know and approve of why
How
this
much
bothers
you're
you,
hurt.
right?
Yeah.
We look at each other, what's the
your
matter with
problem?
you? It's not a big deal. What? We ask questions, but sometimes we don't want the answer. Why is this bothering you so much? Is that really a question, or is it a statement in disguise? Do you really want to know why this bothers me so much?
Right.
And that helps people to transition. This is some of the thinking that you get to do before you offer the apology. What makes it so hard for this person to accept my apology? Right? Why does what I did hurt so much?
That's an excellent question. Why? Because, like you said, it's often thrown out almost, maybe spitefully is a bit strong of a word, but like, what is your problem? Why are you so upset about this? But it's rhetorical. I'm not
Right.
really wanting to know
Right.
what is your deep emotion. It's like, what's your problem? And again, rhetorical, not really asking the words as they're said, right? Just like when you say to someone, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, that
Yeah.
takes away from
I call
so
that
much.
sensitivity in reverse.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings.
If.
No, you're not sorry. That's
No, we're not. Now you're saying that maybe it's a possibility.
Right.
That it happened.
Right.
I'm telling you my feelings are hurt.
Right.
And now you have to go with that. And like
Right.
you said, our desire to measure other people's pain. It's like, well, I've been through worse. People have done worse to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the big deal? Why are you so angry? You know, and you don't get to judge how angry I'm allowed to be. And you're so right in painful situations, because apology only comes after something's gone wrong, right? You don't apologize when everything is good. So in painful situations, now the person who has done the wrong has to figure out, you know, why, how, process how the other person's feeling. And then the person who's been done wrong, I think there's a responsibility there as well to see if, I don't want to say overreacting because I'm not trying to negate their feelings, but are you bringing in other things that don't,
Right.
that aren't
Right.
really a part of this?
Right.
Or you have past hurts that didn't heal that you keep bringing with you, right?
And more often than not, that is a patterned way of being, right? We ride over our hurts. We get over it. We're strong and we move on until we get into an intimate relationship, and then that rawness becomes bare. We're vulnerable, and that's the way relationships are designed. You get to be vulnerable because there's a cycle of intimacy and vulnerability. You can only be as intimate as you are vulnerable. And when you refuse or are afraid or have difficulty being vulnerable, then that's going to limit your ability to be intimate. So for the
I'm just blown away. It makes perfect sense.
It does, doesn't it?
It makes perfect sense. Okay, guys, when we come back from the break,
another break already?
you know, it's been 10 minutes, Andrew. We're doing good here. That carrying on of pain, I think we're going to touch on generational hurt and the ability to apologize. We'll be back from the break in just a moment. Welcome back, and we're going to try to squeeze in as much more information as we can. So I'm returning with my guest, Mr. Andrew L. Blackwood. Will you tell me what the L stands for?
It stands for Lincoln.
Okay, yeah. I'm just
all right.
curious.
That's all right.
So we're back, and we are discussing the art of a genuine apology. I am having so many aha moments. I'm really looking forward to reading all of this, absorbing all of this, and I think there's a lot of learning here for everyone, because there's so many things I haven't considered, and as Andrew explains them, they all just fit together. So one of the things we were talking about in the last segment was that how oftentimes when people are hurt and they're and I don't even want to say rightfully, because your feelings are yours and you're entitled to them, whether or not other people feel that they're valid or not. But sometimes when we do get hurt by someone else, it's not just their hurt, that incident that we're considering or hurt over, it's other things that have carried through. Because as you said, when you're a strong person, perceived as a strong person, we often just suck it up and keep going, suck it up and keep going, and there's only so much you can suck up before you snap. And in that, in a person's life, you can have hurt that's never healed, and it builds and it makes you, I would say, almost ultra sensitive in a way, because as you explained about the cycle of vulnerability and in relationships, is that you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable at all. And when you are it's so raw, it's so sensitive that the smallest thing can really damage you. So that for all the strong people out there, and it's not just strong women, so many strong men that just do what they need to do. Speaking to people is really important, and I hope we get to that non-talker part of this show because I'm super interested in that. But you also spoke, Andrew, about generational hurt. And can you expand on that a bit more?
Sure, sure. I really believe that anything that we pass down in this life is passed down through relationship. So we're not just talking about genetics, we're not just talking about financial literacy or even, or legacies. I'm talking about emotional processes and ways we communicate or not communicate.
Right.
So we pass on what we are exposed to. We pass on what we've experienced, what was done to us, but what was not done with us. We pass all of that on. So I think about staged migration, some people call it, where, one part of the, a child's parent leaves an island, let's say, and goes to another country, and that child is raised by their grandparents.
Right.
So this is why good intentions aren't enough and love isn't enough, because often the motivation, the noble motivation, is I'm going to sacrifice and leave my child and go build a better life and send for them when I can.
Right.
But what happens in that process is there's this emotional distance that's created. There's a lack of attachment that's created. And when this child bonds with their grandparent, that parent is not just, that's not grandparent, that's parent. And then, so now when you send for this child, there's often that expectation that you should be grateful, you should relate to me, I'm your mother or I'm your father, you should respect me, when they don't know you like that.
I don't know you.
They don't know you like that. Not only that, but you just tore them away from everything that they knew. That was their home, that was their security, that was their safe place. Regardless of your intention,
Right.
have this relational dynamic, this relational divide. And then when that's not addressed sufficiently, remember we talked about grief and loss earlier. In a community that we don't, unless somebody's dead, we don't associate grief or loss with it.
Yes.
So we're not thinking, okay, this child has been injured emotionally, and by me. We don't see that there is a responsibility that we get to take and we get to address with this child. So then that child grows up understanding that the emotional bonds that you can make with people, those can be disrupted.
Right.
And those can be disrupted by the people who say that they care about you. And then you don't address that. And that's okay, because that's just a part of life. So then I grow up thinking that hurt is just a part of life. So when I hurt somebody,
it's just a part of life.
it's just part of life. Get over
Suck
it,
it up.
right?
You're gonna be alright.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing that's perpetuated, and it goes from one generation to the next, and to the next, and to the next.
And in what you said, because that's very common, I'm sure in other cultures as well, but I'm from the Caribbean community, so I'll have to speak to what I know. And that happened a lot in my generation before that, where, our parents or grandparents left the Caribbean and came to the United States, England, Canada, to make better lives. And like you said, the intention was nothing but honorable and amazing, but the initial abandonment, so who you know to be your mom or your dad is leaving, then you are attached to your grandparent, and then they establish that life where they are, and they say, okay, you have to come back. You're going to come with me, and you're being torn away. But then that child grows up in the new country and has, like you said, that thing where things happen, people get hurt, it's just a part of life, you have to move on.
Right.
And then perhaps, and maybe I'm overreaching, but this is what popped into my head listening to you say that, is maybe that's where you see a lot of young men in our community not having that attachment with their children, because they've experienced where you will live if I'm not around. It's not the end of the world. Like, I'm okay.
Right.
And you're really not okay.
Right, because a lot of things are modeled for us. I mean, you can even go beyond stage migration back to slavery. The connection of family and the connectedness, that was, to put it lightly, discouraged. That was dismantled.
Yeah,
that was
to put it lightly,
destroyed.
yes.
Right? It was intentionally, designed so that you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that strength. You wouldn't have that unity. So now we come generations later. Where is that modeled? how do we know how to do for others what wasn't done for us? And some people, they intuitively get it.
Right.
But some people don't, and it's hard to, because we have these expectations both ways. Well, my dad should have done this, my dad should have done that, and it doesn't happen. Or my child should do this, or my child, and it doesn't happen. So that comes back to that whole becoming self-aware. And we talk about men and their emotions. I mean, we could go on for a long time with that, but I think suffice it to say that men are moved by their emotions just as much as women.
Yes, people are
People,
moved by
right? We
emotion.
have them, we use them, we live with them, we live by them. I mean, to varying degrees, depending on the person, depending on their life experience. But there's a difference between being moved by an emotion or being in touch with somebody's emotion and being in tune with our emotions.
Right.
Now, a lot of women, because they're emotive and they're expressive, they believe because they're in touch, they're in tune.
Okay.
There's a difference.
All right, so what's the difference? We're getting a lot. I love the linguistic specification.
Right?
I love language, so this is awesome.
So in tune has to do with awareness.
Okay.
And accuracy. Right? We talk about that whole grief and that meaning thing. So what is it that's bothering you? What is it that's troubling me? Where is this coming from? Right? And then how do I behave when I feel this thing? Right? How do I engage with other people? Am I aware what it is that I'm asking of them and how I'm asking that of them?
Okay.
Right? So sometimes we engage with people because we're frustrated. We have these expectations. Why don't you do this? What's the matter with
Why
you?
can't you
right?
just
Why
do
don't
this?
Why don't you just talk to me?
Oh, that's that next segment.
Does that
Yeah,
does
why
that make
don't-
you want to talk to me?
No, not
the way I
really.
just talked to you right now. Is
No,
that endearing? Is that right?
Hi, honey. I'm leaving. Like, no, I don't want to. Why won't you talk to me?
Right? You need to.
'Cause
You
you're
need to.
angry, love.
You know, that's what your problem is.
That is also, as you go through, like, try to get hold of your words. Words are so important.
They are important.
Things like, that's what your problem is. Often we have no clue what the person's problem is, and we're projecting what our problem is, or what we would perceive as the problem, and that's not their problem. So I think all those assumptions and speaking to be heard and not understood, or listening rather, to you know, just so you can respond, but not really understand.
Not really listening at all.
And I think that going back to the first segment where you said time, and I think that's something that people, that is the key.
Well, you know, there's this reality that we can only do and give what we have. And a lot of people, they credit the failure of a relationship to the other person when we don't take enough time to develop ourselves, right? Honestly, sure, I would love for everybody in the world to have a copy of this book. But more important than me benefiting from people buying the book is how many people are actually going to invest in themselves.
Exactly.
To say, I want to be a better version of me.
Yeah.
Because when you're a better version of you, you're going to have better relationships.
Exactly. When we're back from we're going to discuss what we're going to discuss when we come back from the break. We'll be right back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi everyone, welcome back to this final segment of this episode, and I have with me Mr. Andrew L. Blackwood, and we're discussing the art of a genuine apology. Now, as I had promised, Andrew was so gracious we are giving one book away. So, like the last book giveaway, how we will decide is you can send us, both of our contact information will be there. You can send us a private message if it's not something you want to post under the video. You can post your commentary under the video. But what I would love to know is what were your takeaways from this show? Or, the takeaways are good, but also to what situation have you faced where your apology wasn't enough or the apology you were given wasn't enough? And we'll see if there's anything here that will help you resolve that. So for this last part, Andrew, which really went far too fast. Forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yeah.
So during our conversation, which I tried to keep brief before, you said that an apology was the step in between forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yeah.
And that really surprised me because I thought the order was you apologize, you get forgiven, and then you reconcile. But you say, no, this is not how this goes.
No.
You have more experience than me than this, so I'm going to listen.
Well, what I've found is that forgiveness, I've been doing a lot of speaking with this, so I use these demonstrations, but forgiveness has so much to do with the individual, right? So let's say I'm aware that I have hurt you. Or let's backtrack. Let's say I'm the one who's been hurt.
Okay.
Okay. If I've been hurt, some people think forgiveness is dependent on the other person.
Right.
Right? I need them to acknowledge what they did. I need them to be sorry. I need them to say sorry. The truth is, you don't need all of that. You might want it. It might even be deserving, and you are definitely worthy of it, but you don't need anybody or anything to forgive. It is a choice. There's two parts to it. There's the choice, but then there is the rest of the journey where your emotions catch up with the choice.
Right.
So I can't get into all of it. It's there's a whole lot in there about it. But I think when we forgive somebody, even before they apologize, it makes the apology experience so much different.
Okay.
Right? Because I am much more receptive. I'm ready. When we forgive, something starts to happen to our hearts. So we're ready to be more receptive to the apology. Now, that doesn't mean, because a lot of people get hooked up on forgiveness and they deny themselves the healing that comes from forgiveness when they have these expectations of the other person, or they think that forgiveness means it's okay.
Right.
Or I excuse you, or or you're setting yourself up for it to happen again. No, because that's part of reconciliation. When we start talking about the healing in the relationship, the degree of agreement in the relationship, not just on what has happened, but where we're going and how we're going to move forward. So unless you have an agreement, you're not really reconciled. And most of the people don't really talk through what has happened. So how can we agree not only what has happened, but how we're going to move forward if we're not even talking? So that's where the art of a genuine apology comes in. It serves as a bridge to connect forgiveness and reconciliation. Right? Because communication is woven into the art of a genuine apology from start to finish. By the time I've done the art of a genuine apology and I've done it well, not only have we started that reconciliation process, started the rebuilding of that credibility, but you know exactly, you have an understanding of what has happened, how it impacted me, and what you're going to do differently. They're starting to rebuild that.
Right.
So a lot of people, they stay in relationship or they reunite and they think they've reconciled.
But they haven't.
No.
Because in the art of a see, I'm getting this. I really am starting to really understand this. Because the art of a genuine apology, there's so much that goes in before saying you're sorry and after.
That's right.
Because it's an act. It's not words that you say. It's not just words. It's actions.
Right.
And
it's a process.
Thought. It's a process. So if you genuinely apologize, and you've wronged me, and I'm sure that a lot of people's minds are going to romantic relationships and broken trust and so forth, but there's so many things that we need to apologize for, material goods that are gone, things like that. But when you go through this art of genuinely apologizing, from the analysis of yourself to trying to understand where the other person is coming from, and not just assuming, but actually speaking to them to find out, what is wrong?
Right.
Why are you mad like
exactly.
this?
This is a process of knowing each other.
And so that's where the reconciliation will come, because you're getting to know yourself better, and what you're capable of doing or not capable of doing, or committing to. If you really analyze what you've done and why you've done it, you may realize that I can't reconcile with this person because I'm gonna do that again.
Right.
That's just part of who I am, and I really am genuinely sorry I caused this pain in this person, but I will apologize, and part of moving forward will be doing it without this person, because that's how I am, and that's what I'm going to do. It could be
something I'm not willing to give
up.
Not
willing to give up. Exactly. Like, it could even be in a business relationship where you've crossed boundaries or something, but you realize that's how you function. So even though I'm sorry I've ruined this business relationship, and I'm sorry that, you felt that I trespassed and so forth, I genuinely apologize, but we can't reconcile because I'm going to keep doing this thing. This is who I am. So
you know what? You said a word, and is, I can't even, I think it's in chapter 8, but it's the but.
But
just okay, so we got a few more minutes. So if you want your apology to be good and meaningful and effective, there are several things that you really want to stay away from, and the but is one of them. Okay, because it just crosses out everything you just said, right?
But
right? I'm sorry, but right? But okay, so we'll leave that but aside. but I want to come back to this point you made about it not just being about romantic relationships. And there's a difference between intimacy and intercourse. Right? Big difference, because we have intimate relationships with people who are significant to us. So there's a lot of hurt that happens between mother, father, son, grandparent, all that stuff happens, and I see it, and it makes its way into so many different areas of life. And emotional injury expresses itself in so many ways. A lot of people wonder, why is my child out on drugs? Why are they doing this? People are shocked when they hear that somebody attempted to commit suicide. It doesn't shock me. It really doesn't shock me, because I know it's not easy to know people. We think that we know people, but we really more relate to our impressions of people than we actually relate to people. So, often when I meet with families and their teen has just, attempted to commit suicide, they come in and they're in shock. And believe it or not, the art of the genuine apology is so relevant, because we can track back. When did this start?
Right.
What happened? And believe it or not, they're like, when this happened, this is what it communicated to me. The loss of significance, the loss of importance, whether it was the way that you looked at me when you were angry with me, it made me feel like dirt. It made me feel like I was nothing. Right. And believe it or not, that scowl that the parent might have on their face, it might not mean what the child interpreted it as. It might have been from their own hurt. I went through all this to get here, to give you this opportunity, and this is what you do with it? You skip school, you start doing, and that look communicates something completely different to the child. And, but they're not really communicating. Nobody really understands what the emotional injury is, what each person is feeling, and we haven't come to that point where we practiced and even valued communication to where we can really actually talk about what's happening, what happened, and how do we move forward from here.
Yeah. And I think you said something at the beginning, and you just said it now, and just proves what a great way he wraps it all up, is the practicing of communication. It's in practice. We don't get it right away all the time, especially in established relationships. As you do some personal development, you meet somebody new and you can go forth with all your new information and be your best self. But then you have your mom and your granddad and your kids and these people that, before you understood a lot of your pain and before you understood the hurt, there's so much that was laid down with them. And in practicing speaking to them, it doesn't go well. And I've had the opportunity and the joy actually of getting to speak to somebody that is very important to me, which is my son. And we had very bad communication at one point, terrible. And through practicing, and sometimes we'd start and it would just go all wrong, and I'd be like, okay, I'll be back because this isn't going well. And you go and you start over. So the practicing, but as I suspected, we ran out of time before there's so much to know. And so the Mr. Blackwood site is up underneath his name on the show, but you can reach him at www.coachdrew.ca. That's where you'll be able to get the link for the book. By leaving your feedback, by leaving your takeaways, you can also win a copy. I will announce that next week, so please do comment and share the video if you found it of any value. And we're here to answer your questions. You can reach me, you can reach Andrew. We're really happy to help. And also, too, keep in mind he has his practice in Brampton, right? You're in Brampton located?
No, not yet. I don't
Not
have
yet?
an office in Brampton, but I can do one better.
Okay.
I'm actually going to be launching a series of courses in the fall.
There we go.
So if you are interested in that self-improvement piece and making your relationships even better, send me a message, hashtag TAOAGA, The Art of a Genuine Apology, Coach Drew, but also message, say